Hello and welcome to the fourth lecture in this series, which is on how to apply for visa. This is the overview of the lecture series and we are at the fourth step of visa application. By now you must have already heard from the universities that you had applied to, and you should be ready to apply for a visa. The learning objectives of this particular lecture includes the steps that you need to complete before you go for a visa interview, the documentation that you need to have prepared when you go for the interview, and we will also look into the questions that you can expect and how you should be answering them when we get to that section. So first let's start with the steps that you need to complete before the interview. So before the interview, you should once you hear from the university about an admit to the particular program, you would need to put in a request to receive an I-20. This I-20 document is basically a proof which you will take to the visa officer to show that on which basis you can get a visa. Once you have your I-20 in hand, you will also need to complete the DS-160 form. This is the visa application form for students, which you can find on their website. You need to also pay a CVS fee. This is for students. You can go on this link and then click pay I-901 fee. Once you pay this fee, a service receipt is created, and you need to carry this receipt with you before you go to interview. This is a very crucial step, and this needs to be completed before you go for the visa interview. Once you have completed the DS-160 form and submitted it, you will be then allowed to go ahead and book the visa interview appointment. This visa interview appointment will be in two stages. You may need to go the first day for your biometrics, and then the next day for the visa interview. Once this is booked and you have a date in hand, you can start preparing for the interview. This is how a sample I-20 form would look like, and once you complete the DS-160 and you submit it, you will have a confirmation which will look in this kind of format. Okay. There are a few things which you should remember before you go for a visa interview. The motive of the interview is not to check if you are a good student, or if you are eligible to go to the United States as a student, in the form of like, do you have the right kind of degree and those kind of things. Here the motive is more to see what is your intent to enter in the United States. They are basically looking for anything which may suggest to them that you would want to settle in the United States and you won't come back again to India. And that is why they will all the questions that you will see will be more towards understanding how much social ties that you have back home with India, as well as also to look at the affordability for the program, and your basic intent of studying over there should come out easily. It should not be that you have just selected this course and you want to enter United States as a student, and then you have some other plans. So it is very important that you sound excited, motivated, determined to study something, to learn something new, and you have a clear plan as to what you want to achieve by going to the United States and what you want to learn over there. You should remember to reach the location of the interview at least 30 minutes before the scheduled interview time. Usually they would allow people to go in based on the interview slots, and if there is not too much rush, they may even allow you to get in earlier. So try to go at least 30 minutes early. You should also remember that there is no facility to keep a mobile phone or any electronic device in the embassy. So you may need to arrange to leave these devices outside, or or at home if nobody is going to accompany you. You may leave them at home before you go for the interview. This is how a visa interview setup would look like. You would be standing in front of a window where you would be answering the questions. There will be people behind you, so do not expect like a dedicated space where with a lot of privacy, where it would be only you and the visa officer. This is more of an open setup. Once you go through the security and enter inside, you will be waiting for a lot of times in long winding queues, and once your turn comes up, there will be people who will be directing you here, and they will ask you to move to the window. which is where then you have to provide your I-20 as well as your passport, and then the interview will start. Okay. Next, let's look at some of the documentation that you need to prepare before going for the interview. So, the first and foremost is the most important document, which is your passport, which you need to carry when you go for the interview. Along with that, the I-20 form that the original I-20 form that you received from the university, this is also very important that you carry both of these documents together. These are the only two documents that you will be providing or you will be needing at the time of the interview. There are other documents which should be there as a support, but 99.9% of the time the visa officer would not ask any other document apart from these two, but it's always suggested that it's better that you have these documents with you as well. This includes an original affidavit of support from your sponsor. So, in case if it's your parents or a close relative, you would need a support letter from them on a stamp paper, which says that they are willing to sponsor your education in the United States for the program that is mentioned on the I-20. You also need a CA certificate for a fixed and liquid assets, and I'll share a format for that in the next slide. The CA certificate basically is an explanation of how you are going to be funding your education. So, if it's your parents, then what kind of fixed assets they have, what kind of liquid assets they have. So, fixed assets meaning any property that they have, a commercial property or residential properties, and liquid assets meaning any cash, gold, mutual funds, or any liquid asset that your parents have. Those can be listed out over there. For each of these line items, you should be having proofs with you. You don't need to carry a whole lot of bunch of documents, but at least one proof for each line item that you mention on the CA certificate. If you are planning to go through a bank loan, you should also have a sanction letter from the bank if this is applicable for you. Okay. So, this is how a CA certificate should be structured. You should have fixed assets which mention the market value for each of the, let us say, a house or a shop. This market value should ideally also be supported with a document which actually values the exact figure for that particular house at this moment of time when you go for the interview. You can also have liquid assets in the form of bank FDs, provident funds, mutual funds. So, these are some examples I have listed out here which all cover some of the liquid assets, and as a total you should have a total of both fixed assets and liquid assets, and a total which also gets converted into USD as well as in Indian rupees. It's better to have all this information in hand. It is not necessary that this document needs to be prepared by a CA. But it just helps that the CA would actually have all this information, so it's easier for them to do that. This is only from the perspective of students, so that they are clear in their mind as to how they are going to fund the education. A lot of students don't have a very clear idea about how their parents are going to be arranging the money for their education, but when you have this kind of statement, it gives you a clear idea about how much liquid fund you have, how much fixed assets do you have, and that only makes you more confident when you answer in the interview. So this would be really helpful to have. Okay. Now, one by one, let's look into the questions that you can expect, and what is the intent of that question and how you should be answering them. Okay. So there are, first question that you can expect is, what course are you planning to study? With this question, usually most of the visa officers will start with this has to be the exact course that is mentioned on the I-20. Make sure that there is not a lot of confusion between or disconnect between what you say and what is mentioned on the I-20. It's not possible that the visa officer would necessarily know all the different pharmaceutical terms like pharmaceutics or pharmacology or pharmaceutical chemistry. So you may have to explain to the visa officer in a more layman's term. So you should have that prepared as well. and be ready to be able to explain what the course entails and what are you going to study over there and how do you plan to use them. So, all these answers should be ready with you. It's not that you should be giving all these answers when asked about the course. You should, when asked about the course, you should only answer in what is the exact course that you are going to study over there. You should sound very excited because you're going as a student, and this may or may not be the first time you're going to the United States, but this is a time when there are lots of things which you don't know, or as a student when you're going to another country for a long period of time, it's expected that you have a lot of excitement, and this is probably one of the last steps that you need to complete before you can fly. You should be able to show a lot of motivation, lot of excitement, enthusiasm to show that you are really looking forward to get that visa and going to the United States, and be able to very clearly express and explain what you are planning to study in the United States. So make sure you have a good answer for this ready. It does not need, it's not necessary that you have a definition, textbook definition of the course ready, but it should be, you should be able to explain what that course is. So you can try this by explaining the course to a few people who may not know about pharmacy, and try to see how much they are able to understand, and on that basis you can prepare your answers. Okay. Next question after the courses comes on the financial aspects of your journey to the United States. So, how are you sponsoring your education is one of the very common questions. You should also remember that always listen to what exactly is the visa officer asking. Here this may be confused with who is your sponsor, but in actually the question is on how are you sponsoring your education. So, what is the visa officer is basically looking for, knowing if you are funding your education through personal funds or through a loan. So, personal funds meaning funds through your parents or through your relatives, those are all considered as personal funds, and in case you have received any scholarships or any assistantships from the university, that can also be considered as funds which you are using for your education. So, you can mention about that as well. Again, you will have official affidavit for this to support, which will be in your documents. So that is the reason we prepare those kind of affidavits. Okay. So the next question here, as you can expect, is what does your father do? Now this is more likely to come when you say that your father is your sponsor, and the visa officer is just trying to assess if this program is going to be affordable, or how much are your father's savings, or what kind of work does he do. Based on that, they would be able to estimate how much your father would be able to support. So make sure that you answer very specifically, but at the same time you have to realize that if your father is a businessman, you may have to explain the business in an American context, because they may not understand everything which all the different kinds of businesses that happen in India. So you may have to explain it from their perspective as well. So in this case, it will also help you to have your parents or your sponsors income tax returns, a copy of that, so that that can show you exactly how much they are able to earn over the last few years, and that can add as a supportive document for your visa interview. Okay. Next, this is one of the very common questions that a lot of visa officers ask, and I see a lot of students do get confused about how this should be answered. If you get a question about how did you select your universities, here the visa officer is basically trying to understand the process that you went through in selecting those universities. Let's say if you were not very serious about studying, and you are just planning to migrate to the United States and settle over there, you would probably not spend too much time on selecting the universities. You would try to get a few names of few universities where you can get in easily, and probably apply to those and go to the United States. So the visa officer is basically looking for this kind of information as to how you went through in selecting those universities. So the ideal process would be to research on the universities. There is a lot of information available on the website, as we just saw in our last lecture as well. So there is a lot of information is already available on the website, so you can research through them. You can also talk to alumni or senior people from your university who have already gone to those universities. So you can talk to them and try to understand what is the program like, what is the kind of university, what are the different kinds of courses available, where do the alumni end up after the finishing their masters. So these kind of information you can gather from even people. You may have relatives in the United States or friends who may be able to help you with this kind of information. So you should be able to talk through this process and say that, I went through the website, this is what I was looking for, I also spoke to so and so person, and that is how I aligned on which universities I should be applying to. Most importantly, the university offerings should be aligning with your career goals, meaning the research interests that we talked about, that can give you this answer very easily. Let's say, for example, you are specifically interested in formulations designing. So if that university is, there are few universities in the US which offer this kind of focused courses. So you can then you would be easily able to say that my interest was in formulations, and based on that I look for universities, out of which I could find these 7 or 8 universities, from which I have chosen these 6 universities based on so and so parameter. So that is how it should come out. It should come out naturally, and it should be logical as well. If you are only applying to one university and you have an admit from only one, that definitely raises an alarm as to what is your motivation, because normally students would apply for more universities. You would be expecting to not get an admit from a few. There would be some ambitious universities. So that is it's a natural process. That is how the visa officer will also look at it. Okay, next question is, why did you select this university? So remember, this is slightly different question from the earlier one. The earlier was on the process of selecting the universities. This one specifically is on the particular university that you are planning to go through. So the I-20 that you have for the program, so that particular university, how did you arrive to the conclusion that this is the master's program that I want to go for? So in an ideal scenario here, the student should be able to mention that if there is a professor that you like at that particular university, which was an inspiration for you, and you really admire his or her work, and you would want a chance to work with that person, then that can be a very easy answer to say that this is why I really want to go to this program. I chose this program based on the 4 or 5 different admits that I got. The curriculum part, if you are able to specify an answer, this would really help you to crack this interview. If you give more broad answers as like the university is well known, or this is a good university, then that doesn't create a lot of confidence, because I mean all the universities are good in the US. It's not necessary, you would definitely not go to any other university. And the more you are able to specify about your requirements and the university offerings, that way you can easily justify your selections. The answer should also should reflect your personality and what was your thought process that went through it. It's not like you have to answer everything in one sentence. You can take like 2 or 3 sentences to explain to the person. You would be able to understand by looking at the visa officer if they want more information or not. So always make sure that you are focusing on the visa officer as well. You are looking for some signs as to if that person is understanding what you are saying, or if they may have some questions. So you can make sure that you listen through their questions as well in between if they have any. Okay. Next question is a very common question again, why US? So the visa officer usually wants to see here as to a particular course. Let's say if it's a common course, or if that visa officer has heard about pharmaceutical sciences or this kind of courses a lot, they may wonder like why did you select US over another country? So here you should avoid making a blanket statement like the US is technologically advanced, or it's one of the greatest country in the world, the education system is very good. So these kind of things are bland statements and they don't really help. It will always help to be more specific. Again here, if you can specify the process, or what works in your advantage is that pharmaceutical companies from the US are one of the most advanced companies in the world. All the new drug discovery happens in the United States and in some parts of Europe. So you can use that and justify your selection by explaining how you plan to use this education in your further career plan. So you should always be able to show what you plan to do after this masters. Let's say if you are planning to come back to India, then where you are planning to work. So imagine after 15-20 years what you are going to be doing and how you will be using this masters degree. So in that way you would be able to then weave a good story to explain as to how you selected United States. It's not possible to prepare for all the different kind of questions that the visa officer may ask, but as if you have thought about as many questions as possible, you would be able to you would be in a much better position to be able to answer them at the time of the interview. So make sure you have a good answer for this ready. Also don't prepare an answer by rote learning. So if you prepare an answer by rote learning, it can be easily picked up. So try to come as naturally as possible, sound enthusiastic, sound motivated, really looking forward to learn something, and have a good explanation about what you are planning to study. So lot of students who go for pharmacology, let's say, they justify it by saying, United States has a lot of labs, the resources that they have with the kind of instruments that they have, it's all cutting edge. So you want to gain experience over there and then, let's say, come back to India and take your career forward. So those are the kind of examples or explanations that you should be having ready. Okay. Next question is again, what do you plan to do after your MS? Now a lot of students feel that it may impact the chances of getting the visa if they mention that they plan to work in the United States, and you may feel that this is putting you between a rock and a hard place, but this is not actually true. It's if you think about it, it's very simple. Actually, in the United States, you are allowed to work after your master's program for 1 year. If it is a STEM course, then you are allowed to work for 3 years, and this comes under what is called as optional practical training, or OPT. So this is actually allowed by the government themselves for any student who completes a course, a program in the United States, is allowed to work over there for a year to 3 years. So it's not illegal to stay in the United States beyond completion of your master's degree and then gaining this experience under the OPT program. So if you let's say come to the interview and say that no, I plan to finish my master's and then come back to India, and especially if, let's say, you have an education loan, that would definitely not be looked at favorably, because it's not practical that a student going to the United States on an education loan is not going to try and work over there, at least to earn some money, or earn at least what they have spent in their masters, or just to get some experience in the United States. The industry is so advanced, you would definitely want to stay there and do some internship, some kind of work which can help you later if you plan to come back to India. So make sure that you are able to explain it in that way. The ideal answer should be that you would prepare for trying to gain some kind of employment where you can learn something new and use that when you come back to India and you have your plans ready for the next steps as well. Okay. A few general suggestions that I would also like to make. Every university has a mascot. It would be helpful that you go through the university websites, and on the internet, if you search, you would be able to find it. For example, USC, or University of Southern California, the students from that university are called as Trojans. So this kind of information may help, because the visa officer may just say that, okay, oh, so you're planning to become a Trojan, so at that time you should not be completely blank, and you should be able to understand what the person is trying to say, and have a conversation. So interview is not going to be like a 5 hours. This is more of a discussion, or a conversation, so that so the visa officer is able to assess what is your intention for going to the United States. So as I said, have a simple definition of the course ready. You should be able to explain it to a layman. Dress up formally, but not too formally as well. You don't need to wear a suit or something like that, but a tie would help. And even for females, if you can go up dress formally, that would definitely help. As I said, do not prepare by rote learning, and it is very important that you prepare the answers for yourself and not take up answers from what somebody else who may have cracked the interview, what they have given, because every case is different. You may also read up about different visa experiences on social media, but you never know about the documents that the student is carrying, or the background for that particular student. So the DS 160 that you fill out, that has a lot of information which actually also lead to a lot of questions. So if you just go by the experiences, sometimes you may get misled, and you may prepare answers which may not be suitable for your profile. Be true to yourself. I think if you go there naturally and willing to have a conversation, you should easily be able to get the visa. Okay, I hope this would have cleared some of your doubts and answered a few questions that you may have about the visa interview, and you go to the interview in a much more confident way now. Thank you.